Let's talk about photography together. Part 1.1 about this video series. What is presented in this video is the summary of a meeting around photography.
As a non-professional photographer, I was asked to talk about my photographs to close an exhibition. Moderately interesting subject that I transformed into, let's talk about photography together, adding the observation, everyone does photography.
Today, everyone has a camera in their pocket and everyone uses them.
The idea, implicitly, is to allow everyone to approach the image in a relevant way without having to use the idiomatic vocabulary of the specialty, especially since the descriptive vocabulary of photography is quite poor. So move away from the relationship between ordinary people and professionals, and even ask the questions. Is creating something reserved for certain professional artists? And, does creating collectively lead to society? It was therefore a question, for me, of preparing this session of discovery and exchange by constructing an artistic project whose dissemination would lead the spectators to participate actively, moving from questioned spectators to actors of a project.
So imagine situations conducive to exchanges, excluding the principle of judgment or failure of the participants.
An extract from Susan Sontag's writer, philosopher, feminist book on photography served as my starting point. I quote it, "Surrealism is at the very heart of the photographic enterprise simply because it creates a double of the world, a second-degree reality, narrower but more dramatic than that perceived by natural vision. The less it is manipulated, the less technique is involved, the more naive it is, and the more likely a photo is to be authoritative.
Surrealism has always courted the accidental, welcomed the unexpected, flattered disordered presences." (1.2) The device used. I did not want to do a commented, slide session, and I wanted the possibility of presenting and manipulating images, of being manipulated, of being in the game live, of avoiding the frontal situation of the trainer giving his presentation. I needed a playground where I could bring the participants. An easily controllable projection system. Vimix for image projection and construction seemed completely suitable to me. It is completed by Antimicro X and gamepads, PS2. Antimicro X allows you to assign each key on the gamepad to a keyboard action, therefore using Vimix's keyboard. The settings are easy, the application is stable, you can connect as many gamepads as desired, each one having its own window. Quickly, here is an image whose movements are controlled by a joystick and two gamepad buttons. Part 2.1 Play to discover. First game, presentation of collected, unmodified photos. These photos illustrate the sentence, "Surrealism has always courted the accidental, welcomed the unexpected, flattered disordered presences." The photos offered have a humorous form that is easy to decipher. It's a way of getting to know each other as a group, of hearing everyone's voice and talking about collecting, often due to chance. Second game. How to describe a photo.
Depending on whether you are a professional photographer, gallery owner, amateur, technician, your outlook and vocabulary are different, and sometimes very specific. To get around the obstacle, I propose a series of cards, bringing together qualifiers used in everyday life, and avoiding qualifiers that concern the image, for example, dark, blurry, colorful, or making too peremptory a judgment: beautiful, ugly, dirty. Before the projection of images, distribution is made at random of a small number of cards to each participant. The rule of the game is, if among your cards some suit you to qualify the photo, you say so, specifying which part of the photo makes you associate this qualifier.
For each photo projected, we add the qualifiers retained by each. We then discover a multiple vision of the same photo object.
A first way of meeting gazes, of remaining within a delimited lexical field. Important thing to note, there are no wrong answers. Some will be seen as more relevant or more suitable.
Part 2.2 Play to understand. First series. Two people must, by each operating a gamepad, make image fragments appear or disappear.
The gamepads are programmed in such a way that 6 touches make 6 photos appear, and the remaining 6 touches make them disappear.
A first, wild, phase allows you to locate the keys, images, and get to grips with the device. From there, it is a matter of constructing assemblies which will require the agreement of both players, and why not the rest of the group. You can add, randomly or not, a series of 4 or 5 cards and, the opposite process to describing a photo, create an image that meets these qualifiers. Second series. It's the same principle but with more meaning in the fragments offered by the appearance of texts and contexts. Part 2.3, Play to Learn. Learn. That is to say one, or better, people have decided to learn the tools, photo or video editor, combined with Vimix.
To think about their use from the perspective of artistic practice of Vjing, with the aim of a projection. Setting up a learning situation is important. It is not a question of the trainer repeating a series of gestures or commands until they are known by heart and thus reproducible identically. Such a case, in general, would be in contradiction with the notions of experimentation and trial and error, notions which give error a central place in the acquisition of skills. What is more, such a practice would be far removed from artistic act and its singularity. The learning situation chosen is based on the concept of problem situation, or complex situation. This consists of presenting a challenge to achieve, an enigma to solve.
This scenario must call on a lot of knowledge from the participants, in this case, knowing how to qualify an IMOG. An example of a problem situation.
The Cinematheque archivist discovered in a box a series of pieces of film in poor condition, so bad that we can barely make out a few sheets of paper, a table. A handwritten sheet is attached giving the title of what seems to be an unfinished film project. Do you inanimate objects have a soul? Illegible. ?
Knowing your passion for archive restoration and fictional storytelling,
the archivist is calling on you to imagine and carry out this project, in the form of a silent film, which will then be played in public. You have a screen, a projector, a computer station equipped with Vimix, Antimicro X, 2 gamepads, photo editing and word processing software. You have X hours.
You will argue your production, what approach, how the choices were made, etc. We see here that this challenge can be adjusted according to the level of the participants, by providing or not, a story frame, prepared images, video sequences, etc. And the last important thing which serves as validation for the formulation of the challenge: we cannot predict the result.
Different groups to whom the same situation will be proposed will bring different achievements, but will in all cases have developed new skills.